Senator Elissa Slotkin just asked the Postmaster General a simple question. If a 60-year-old woman in Michigan puts her ballot in a USPS mailbox, will you deliver it? He said yes. Then she asked why the Postal Service is demanding states turn over their voter rolls. He said the president sued them. She said the Constitution gives states the right to run elections.
The president has sued us, okay? We're in court right now. He sued us and a bunch of other states for our voting rolls. So he's obsessed with this. The Constitution gives the right to states to execute elections. So you are a pawn in this.
She said the Postal Service is being used as a pawn in an authoritarian playbook. She said the president is obsessed with this. He is willing to do just about anything to show he is a winner. She said the Postal Service is one of the most important institutions in the country. She said, don't taint it with the obsession of one man. She said, push back. Let's watch.
Senator Slotkin.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I think you've heard in a bipartisan way the importance of the Postal Service, particularly to rural Americans. It's a lifeline. And I just, hearing you talk about how there's going to need to be reductions in service because you don't have the cash. When most Americans have just watched us, launch a war that we think is going to cost at least $80 billion, you can imagine how that hits to someone who says, how do we not have the ability to fund my rural postal delivery so I can get my medication or vital information in my post box, but we somehow have money for everything else. So I encourage you to advocate and push back where you can. And we want you to succeed. We want the post office to succeed. But I want to follow up on some of the lines of questioning that we had on this side of the aisle, particularly from Senator Peters, on the role of the U.S. Post Office in our elections. Because I can't think of something that's more important than our democracy and making sure we have free and fair elections. But the U.S. Postal Service is now part of this bigger story of this president desperate to federalize our elections. He has tried every which way to say that if he and his party don't win in these November elections, they were rigged. He said it in the State of the Union. And now we have this new rule that you've put out saying that states have to turn over their voting rolls, and you, the U.S. Postal Service, will decide, okay, who's approved to send their ballot through the mail. It's just another backdoor way of trying to influence this election. And to show the level of obsession that this president has, he's literally left the leader, Mr. Thune, Senator Thune, on the stage right now and canceled the signing of a housing bill like 8 minutes ago until we pass the SAVE Act, this obsession he has, which will disenfranchise a huge number of voters. So he's obsessed with this, and he's pulled in the U.S. Postal Service. Have you ever voted by mail?
I have not.
Do you believe that a piece of mail that's put in a mailbox should be sent no matter what? Do you believe that is your obligation?
We have a lot of different rules. I mean, if you want a yes or no answer, I'd say no. I mean, obviously, if it's dangerous, if it doesn't
I'm not talking about an inflammatory thing. A letter that is not a threat. Just a piece of mail that is not a weapon, it's not a threat. It's a ballot. Do you believe right now it is your obligation to send that ballot to its intended recipient?
Yeah, we send every piece of mail that we send in accordance with our regulations and the mailman.
But the state of Michigan's about to start mail-in voting, end of June for our primary. If a 60-year-old woman in Grayling, Michigan puts that ballot after June 25th into one of the U.S. Postal Service's mailboxes, as she's done for many elections, will you direct the Postal Service to deliver that ballot?
I don't have to direct the Postal Service to do that because we do that every day. That is exactly what we do.
So then why are you demanding, actually, that for Michigan's voter rolls in other states to be presented to you? The president has sued us, okay? We're in court right now. He sued us and a bunch of other states for our voting rolls. So he's obsessed with this. The Constitution gives the right to states to execute elections. So you are a pawn in this, unfortunately. I don't think you're a bad person from what I know of you. You run a big company, but you are part of a much bigger story that's playing out literally on a stage right now. And so if you don't get Michigan's voter rolls for the general election in November, will you move those ballots in your mailboxes?
Remember, right now, we only have a proposed rule, so there are no new rules.
But have you proposed it?
We will move those.
You've proposed it.
We did.
Okay, so
we will move those ballots in accordance with whatever rule is in effect at that point in time.
So, but you proposed it. It's your rule, right?
We did, yes.
Okay, so you want it to pass?
Yes. I mean, as I said before, this is not something that's new. This is something that we've been recommending for many years. And again, it's a process that is followed by a lot of states already. States like California and Oregon, states like Florida.
I think you're conflating, I think, some of the things. I have no problem with a barcode being put on a piece of mail and following it like that. But I just think it's important to understand, especially since you are a lawyer, not this kind of lawyer, but you are a lawyer, that you are being used as part of a much bigger story that this president is trying to play out, where he does not believe elections that he loses are valid elections. He's willing to do just about anything to show that he's actually a big winner, no matter what he does. And I just ask you, as a professional, as someone who's done serious things in your life, please push back on being a pawn in this authoritarian playbook. The Postal Service is one of the most important institutions in our country. Don't taint it with the obsession of this one man. Please push back.
Senator Elissa Slotkin just delivered a masterclass in how to expose executive overreach, authoritarian tendencies, and the weaponization of a beloved American institution. She did not come with a speech. She came with questions. She came with the voice of a 60-year-old woman in Michigan who just wants her ballot delivered, and she left no doubt about the answer. The exchange between Slotkin and the Postmaster General was not just a routine oversight hearing. It was a confrontation about the fundamental question of whether the government serves the people or serves itself, and whether democratic institutions will be weaponized for political purposes. Slotkin began by acknowledging the importance of the Postal Service, particularly to rural Americans. She said it is a lifeline. She said she heard the Postmaster General talk about reductions in service because the Postal Service does not have the cash. She pointed out that Americans just watched the government launch a war that will cost at least $80 billion. She asked how the government can find money for a war, but not for rural postal delivery. The contrast is stark. The government has money for bombs, but not for medication. It has money for military operations, but not for mail. It has money for foreign adventures, but not for the basic services that Americans rely on every day. Slotkin did not let it slide. She said she encourages the Postmaster General to push back where he can. She is not blaming him for the war. She is pointing out the hypocrisy. The government has unlimited money for what it wants and no money for what it does not want. Rural Americans are being left behind, and the Postal Service is being starved of resources while the administration spends billions on war. Then Slotkin turned to the elections. She said she cannot think of something more important than democracy and free and fair elections. She said the Postal Service is now part of a bigger story of a president desperate to federalize elections. She said he has tried every which way to say that if he and his party do not win, the elections were rigged. She said he said it in the State of the Union. That is not a casual comment. That is a pattern. The president has been undermining faith in elections for years. He has been laying the groundwork to challenge the results if he loses. He has been accusing his opponents of cheating. He has been claiming that the only way he can lose is if the system is rigged. That is not a belief. That is a strategy. And the Postal Service is now part of that strategy. She said the new rule requiring states to turn over their voting rolls is just another backdoor way to influence elections. She said the president is obsessed with this. She pointed out that he canceled the signing of a housing bill to push the SAVE Act. She said the SAVE Act would disenfranchise a huge number of voters. She said the Postal Service is being used as a pawn. The timing is revealing. The president had a housing bill ready to sign. It was a bipartisan achievement. It would have helped millions of Americans. And he canceled it. He walked away from it. Why? To push a bill that would make it harder for people to vote. That is not leadership. That is obsession. That is a man who cares more about winning elections than about helping the people he serves. Slotkin then asked the Postmaster General if he has ever voted by mail. He said he has not. She asked if he believes a piece of mail placed in a mailbox should be sent no matter what. He said no, because there are dangerous items, she clarified. She said she is not talking about dangerous items. She is talking about a ballot. She asked if he believes it is the Postal Service's obligation to send that ballot to its intended recipient. He said they send every piece of mail in accordance with regulations. She pressed. She asked if a 60-year-old woman in Michigan puts her ballot in a USPS mailbox, will the Postal Service deliver it? He said yes. Then she asked why the Postal Service is demanding states turn over their voter rolls. He said the president has sued them. He said they are in court. She said the Constitution gives states the right to run elections. She said he is being used as a pawn. Slotkin's argument is devastating. She did not need to argue about the merits of the rule. She did not need to attack the Postmaster General personally. She only needed to show that the Postal Service is being used for a political purpose. She showed that the Postal Service's core mission is to deliver mail, not to collect voter information. She showed that the rule is a backdoor way to influence elections. She showed that the president is obsessed with this issue. She showed that he is willing to do just about anything to show he is a winner. And she showed that the Postmaster General is a pawn in that game. The rule is not about efficiency. It is not about security. It is about control. It is about the federal government having access to state voter rolls. It is about the federal government being able to challenge ballots. It is about the federal government being able to influence who gets to vote. The Postmaster General's defense was weak on every level. He said the rule is not new. He said it has been recommended for many years. He said states like California and Oregon already use similar systems. Slotkin pushed back. She said there is a difference between a voluntary best practice and a mandatory federal requirement. She said she has no problem with a barcode on a piece of mail. She said she has a problem with the federal government demanding voter rolls. She said the Postal Service is being used as part of a bigger story. She said the president does not believe elections he loses are valid. She said he is willing to do just about anything to show he is a winner. She asked the Postmaster General to push back. The Postmaster General did not say he would. He did not say he would oppose the rule. He did not say he would resign. He said nothing. Slotkin's voice lands differently because of who she is. She is not a firebrand. She is a former CIA officer. She is a national security professional. She has spent her career protecting the country from threats. She knows what authoritarianism looks like. She knows what it looks like when a leader tries to subvert democracy. She knows what it looks like when institutions are weaponized, and she is not going to let it happen to the Postal Service. She called it out. She said the Postal Service is one of the most important institutions in the country. She said not to taint it with the obsession of one man. She said to push back. She is not asking the Postmaster General to be a hero. She is asking him to do his job. She is asking him to remember that the Postal Service serves the American people, not the president. She is asking him to remember that the Constitution does not give the president the power to federalize elections. She is asking him to remember that the Postal Service is not a political weapon. The larger issue here is not just about the Postal Service. It is about the erosion of democratic norms. It is about the weaponization of government institutions. It is about the president's willingness to do anything to stay in power. Slotkin made that argument. She made it with the voice of a 60-year-old woman in Michigan. She made it with the voice of a national security professional. She made it with logic. She made it with passion. She made it with the Constitution. And she left no doubt about the answer. The president is not just trying to win an election. He is trying to change the rules of the game. He is trying to make it harder for people to vote. He is trying to make it easier to challenge the results. He is trying to make it possible to claim that any election he loses is rigged. That is not democracy. That is authoritarianism. And Slotkin is not going to let it happen without a fight. The hearing ended without the Postmaster General offering a meaningful defense. He sat there. He listened. He deflected. He said the rule is not new. He said states already use similar systems. He did not deny that the president is obsessed. He did not deny that the rule is a backdoor. He did not deny that the Postal Service is being used as a pawn. He did not promise to push back. Slotkin had done her job. She had held him accountable. She had exposed the truth. And she had made it clear that the American people deserve better. The question now is whether the Postmaster General will listen. The Postal Service is one of the most important institutions in the country. It should not be tainted with the obsession of one man. It should not be used as a pawn in a political game. It should not be weaponized against the American people. Slotkin made that clear. The Postmaster General heard it. Whether he acts on it is up to him.